Rise and shine, roommates. It's your girl, LaSasha M, and you're now entering into a genuine conversation. Grab a coffee or even a hot tea, whichever you prefer. Please join alongside me as we speak about childhood trauma, as well as the effects that it has on adulthood. Before we jump into the conversation, I just want to make it clear that we are having technical difficulties in the studio, so this episode won't come with a video. I know I mentioned it on social media and I never took it down, but I've been trying to get everything back up and running, but unfortunately it's going to take more than 24 hours, and I'm going to really have to focus on it and understand what went wrong. So for episode 3, we just have audio. So let's get started. We know that childhood trauma affects a lot of us, and some of us might not even have the courage or the support to admit it. After doing my detailed research, I've learned childhood trauma is an emotional or physical occurrence that happens in life that affects an individual's livelihood for a short or long period of time. Trauma can derive from child abuse, neglect, emotional neglect, bullying, natural disasters, refuge, and many more. I just want to throw some statistics up in here because you already know this platform definitely promotes education, and what's the point of telling a story without putting some facts up in it? About 2/3 of young individuals experience one traumatic event by the age 16. 19% will be due to injuries due to violence, and 12% will be due because of physically ill youth that has post-traumatic stress disorder. 54% of American families have been affected already. This is according to the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. Trauma holds an individual accountable for events that were out of their control. It stunts your growth and your life values. Values that are affected, basically symptoms that come with childhood trauma, is not being able to control your emotions, distorted thinking, as well as dissociation from others. A value that I find vital in life that childhood trauma can affect is trust. We learn to trust through our households, from our families and communities. What happens if that trust is broken at a young age? Barely able to articulate newfound emotions, a child just stepped into vulnerability when trust by the ones that are closest to them is broken. As adults, we put our negative emotions on the back burner or find an excuse not to face them. But do we really dissect them and try to figure out where the hesitation comes from? Childhood trauma is nothing or isn't just something that a child goes through. This will follow you into adulthood. And what you think might be pain from a recent relationship just might be uprooted pain from your childhood. Experience that you thought that you can never experience, but you felt like you have before, might be experience from your childhood that you just buried in the back of your mind, and something just reminded you of it. You cannot erase memories, no matter how hard you try. You cannot erase emotions, no matter how hard you try. Erasing is not the key to happiness, but in fact, healing is. All right, we tend not to blame the environment we come from, but instead we say it built me, but in fact, it continues to break you. Let's just dissect this right quick. Your primary environment, not the environment you spend your most time around, but the environment that you learn the most from, you experience from, is your primary environment. If that environment where you experience the most hurt, the most vulnerability, the most you ever hated something in your life, how is that making you? In fact, that is breaking you constantly every single day. And without healing, it just continues to break you and grind you until you're gravel. And you have nothing to look forward to, unfortunately, because you have let that unhappiness, that negativity consume you so much. You have, or you feel like you have no purpose. The key is to heal from all negativity, okay? I'm just saying, because I learned that myself. I've grown up being an angry person, going through trauma on my own in my life. Growing up, I was angry, never knew what a positive day looked like until I made the decision to heal. The most important question in this conversation today is, how do we protect our generation? How do we make sure that they are safe? And the more we save, the less has to go through that traumatic events in life. One, we have to understand that trauma affects everyone differently. So don't look for signs. Just simply ask questions and let the child know that you are the safe haven in their conversation. If you find that life is swell for the little one, still be their confidant. Don't create disassociation. Don't allow them to define dissociation. It might sound crazy, but this is true. If you continue to have a conversation with a child, and it might be for your own purposes, but you start to leave and pull away from their life, they will start to believe it's their fault. And that will create a form of childhood trauma. Don't believe me? This is your time for curiosity. Look it up, okay? 2, if the situation was where a child is in a bad place, this is what you can do. All right. You can let them know that you are the safe place. Let them know they are not the reason for the issue that they have encountered. Allow them to know you are the shoulder to cry on. Don't rush them. Allow them to open up and work through past events on their own time. If a home isn't a safe haven, see if you can change your environment. Don't get too involved. Why? And I'm sad to say, because you always want to be as much help as you can. But unfortunately, I have to make sure I say, don't get too involved, because being too involved can create more destruction. Just be involved just enough. Just to scratch the surface. Just to know you are the background listening. Just don't create destruction. As adults, how can we make sure we heal and don't allow it to be affected in your child's life or your future family? All right. Educate yourself with unidentified emotions and behavior. Know what you're working with. Know what you're healing from. Understand it is not a behavioral problem, but a mental one. Start with a new practice that dilutes the negativity, like yoga or meditation. If you listen to my last episode, Mind Over Matter, we spoke about meditation and how it can decrease stress, how it can purify happiness. It is a fact that childhood trauma gives adults overwhelming stress that is unhealthy for your body. Although stress, little bit of stress, slight stress, is actually healthy for the body because it's just a circulation. It's basically an energizer. Too much stress is like too much sugar, too much drugs. It's not good for you. And lastly, break the curse. As you identify the negativity in your childhood, you learn how to protect it from the ones you love. Make sure that when you're healing for you. And feel selfish about it. Why? Because after you're done healing, you're benefiting everyone else around you. People take selfish as a negative word, but there are multiple events that's going to happen in your life where you have to be selfish. And that's going to be the next conversation between you and I, selfish. But until then, hopefully this episode has driven your curiosity to look into how childhood trauma affects the brain, look into the study, and also the statistics behind it. And until then, roommates, it's your girl, LaSasha M. Turner.